Now we come to scenes we'd like to see. So if everyone can make their way over to the performance area, I'll read out this week's topics and then we'll see what our panels can come up with. Okay, here we go. The first subject is unlikely things to read on a health insurance form.
Are you the only black guy in a horror film? What's your blood type? You can do 50 words a minute, innit, bruv?
Unlikely lines from a war movie.
It is better to die on your feet than live on your knees. Anyway, enough about that Talisa video. In the Marines, our motto is, no one gets left behind. Private Cameron, where is your daughter?
Unlikely things to hear on a property show.
And more information on how to get together a deposit for a house can be found in our free leaflet, When Will Nana Die? We're looking at a well-equipped council house in Hull. Fridge, oven, washing machine. In fact, this is one of the nicest gardens we've seen.
Unlikely things to hear in a maternity ward.
Bad news, I'm afraid. He's ginger. Your Highness. No, I do like it, darling. Just not in that colour.
Unlikely things for a sports commentator to say.
Tragedy strikes the Winter Olympics as the ski jumping is accidentally held next to a clay pigeon shoot. And that's an incredible right hook there from Abu Hamza. And Serena Williams remains unseeded for a second year. I can't help thinking that a bit of lippy and a push-up bra...
OK, the next topic is bad things to say at a job interview.
So I'm just checking. You definitely don't do a CRB check. You've demonstrated a bad attitude, an inability to listen and a complete lack of interest in others. Welcome to Ryanair's customer service team.
Unlikely things to hear on radio.
You're listening to Radio 3. Anyone? 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 Bueller? Next up on Radio 1, Nick Grimshaw. He's not very good, but he's only 28, so he definitely didn't get up to anything in the 1970s.
Things you wouldn't hear on a science documentary.
In our next experiment, we're going to prove that putting Dara Ó Briain in a room full of young people still doesn't make science interesting.
I think we've got the points. Weren't D-Ream shit?
Things you wouldn't hear on a fitness DVD.
Today we're going to work on our 3 problem areas. That's bums, tums and Afghanistan.
Unlikely things for a vet to say.
No, I'm afraid Timmy won't be coming out of hibernation soon, and that's because he's not actually a tortoise, he's a Freybentos pie. Mr. Johnson, you spoil that dog. Not only are you overfeeding him, but he's quite capable of licking his own balls.
Unlikely things for a sports commentator to say.
And that's an unfortunate wardrobe malfunction for the Ukrainian women shot putter there as a bollock pops out. And Tiger Woods is going for his 3rd hole of the afternoon. Surely by now he should have left the hotel.
Commercials that never made it to air.
Condoms. Because if she'd sleep with you, she'd sleep with anyone. Maybe she's born with it. In which case, I probably shouldn't take the piss. Lidl. Because life didn't work out as you planned.
Things you wouldn't hear on a DIY show.
I'm Nick Knowles, and no matter how many DIY programmes I make, I'll never be as famous as my sister Beyoncé. This week, John from Peterborough successfully put a roll of wallpaper up himself, so we're taking him to hospital.
Unlikely lines from a romantic novel.
Romeo, 5-5, Alpha Zulu Tango, Grey Skoda Octavia, last seen heading towards M6.
Things you won't hear at the World Cup.
And now our cameraman is going to pick out some of the plainer girls in the crowd.
Hang on. It's not very high side. So it's just this one side is doing it all the time, and that's really unfair. I'm so sorry, right? You two are you're kind of hogging it a bit. So for the rest of the round, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to... Things you won't hear at the World Cup. Dun 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 dun. Sorry, excuse me.
It's the first time that most people have ever seen Dara's legs, ladies and gentlemen.
And that's a very soft tackle, as Pele hasn't taken his tablets yet.
Unlikely things to hear on a cookery programme.
No, I'm afraid those aren't bacon bits. I've just got a bit of eczema at the moment. We'd like to apologise for the misprint in this week's Radio Times. Paul Hollywood is, in fact, a massive cook.
Unlikely things to hear at the dentist.
Welcome to Dick Van Dyke, the dentist. I'm afraid it's worse than bad breath. You've got supercalifragilisticextreme-halitosis. No, don't worry. That's not the sound of the drill. It's just that my receptionist's a scouser. This is most unusual, madam. You don't seem to have any teeth at all. What's that? You here for a smear test? That's next door.
OK, the next topic is... The next topic is unlikely lines from a children's book.
You do not like green eggs and ham? Well, tough. This is a Weatherspoons. Spot wondered why he'd been placed into the sack with the brick. But either way, this was going to be the best trip to the canal ever.
Well, Cinderella, she said, I'm your fairy princess. Princess Monaco of Kent.
Unlikely small ads.
For sale, engagement ring, never used, would suit heartless bitch. After leaving an abusive relationship, I'm looking for a fresh start. Contact Scotland. Correction. Last week's notice was mistakenly placed in the Men Seeking Men column, but actually I am genuinely seeking someone to demolish my back entrance.
OK, the next topic is unlikely lines from a superhero movie.
Oh, my God, there's a coach full of children about to fall off a bridge on the M40. Still, not to worry, I can take the M1 instead. Of all the mutants, Magneto was the hardest to deal with, as he was bipolar.
Unlikely things to hear at an award show.
Sadly, he can't be with us tonight, so to collect the award on his behalf, Chief Inspector Harris of Operation U-Tree.
Unlikely lines from a romantic novel.
I want your breasts, your legs, your thighs. I'm on the phone to Nando's, love. What do you want? They gazed into each other's eyes, and their thoughts were so in tune, they both thought the exact same thing. You'll do. As Mr. Darcy kissed her neck, she flushed angrily. Get out! I'm having a shit!
Unlikely film trailers.
All your favourite administrators are back. In human resources too. This time it's personnel. It was a love story that crossed the species barrier. He was a man, she was a cow. Coming soon, beef encounter.
Things you wouldn't hear on the radio.
Travel news. A coachload of origami enthusiasts has broken down on the M1, and they're all currently sat on the hard shoulder making paper models of cars. Traffic is described as stationary. This is local radio, it's 4 a.m. and no one's listening. Let's play Say Something Racist Roulette.
Sometimes when you listen to the radio, there's a tune that you can't get out of your head. It sort of plays again and again and again. It sort of gets faster and faster and faster, and finally it comes on.
Unlikely things to hear on a consumer programme.
Dear Anne, the other day I was changing my baby's nappy and he weed right in my face. Does this mean I can make a PPI claim? Critics say Botox is too expensive, but we spoke to 50 people who just paid for the treatment and none of them looked surprised. Dear Watchdog, I bought these pork scratchings, but they all taste a bit David Cameron-y. Here comes Captain Hook, who turned to piracy after his benefits were stopped. Half grizzly bear and half buffalo. The gruffalo was the biggest, scariest animal in the whole wood, until one day he got a job presenting Mock the Week.
Commercials that never made it to air.
Megabus, the only bus company endorsed by Dara O'Brien. Tesco penis extensions, because every little helps. Uncle Tom's rice, like Uncle Ben's, but a bit more racist.
Unlikely things to hear in hospital.
And your cancer specialist today is Noel Edmonds. The good news is your father is comfortable. In fact, I've been sitting on him all morning.
Unlikely film trailers.
Thanks to an unfortunate typo, it's the most one-sided action film ever. Allen versus Predator. 50 Shades of Grey, the heartwarming story of a vajazzler in an old folks' home. Harrison Ford is 73 and he's back in Indiana Jones and the Tricky Patch of Ice outside the post office.
Unlikely things to hear on a makeover show.
Mrs. Patterson says her downstairs is a little damp. Don't worry, Alan Titchmarsh has that effect on a lot of women your age. I showed this couple from Sussex a delightful little semi earlier and said if they touch it, I'll do up their house.
Things you'd never read in the Bible.
And after the Last Supper came the last argument about who had a starter. People who enjoyed this book also enjoyed the Quran and the Torah.
Lines you wouldn't hear in a James Bond film.
Ah, Mr. Bond. Welcome to this mandatory course on sexual harassment in the workplace. Mr. Bond, I have one question for you. Does this testicle look swollen? This is the easiest fight on top of a train I've ever had. Thank you, Southern Rail.